walks into a bar and says, give me a beer. The bartender says, seems as though you've got a major stuttering problem. The man replies, no, kidding. The bartender says, I used to stutter, but my wife cured me. One afternoon, she gave me 3 times in a row, and I haven't stuttered since. The man says, that's great to know. A week later, the same man walks into the bar and says, give me a beer. The bartender says, why didn't you try what I told you? I did, said the man. It just didn't work. But I must say, you have a really nice apartment. Woman was having a daytime affair while her husband was at work. One wet and day, she was in bed with her boyfriend when, to her horror, she heard her husband's car pull into the driveway. Oh my God, hurry, grab your clothes and jump out of the window. My husband's home early. I can't jump out of the window. It's raining out there. If my husband catches us in here, he'll kill us both. She replied, he's got a hot temper and a gun, so the rain is the least of your problems. So the boyfriend scoots out of bed, grabs his clothes and jumps out of the window. As he ran down the street in the pouring rain, he quickly discovered he had run right into the middle of the town's annual marathon. So he started running and was in a terrible car accident, and his manhood was mangled and torn from his body. His doctors assured him that modern medicine could give him back his manhood, but that his insurance wouldn't cover the surgery, since it was considered cosmetics. The doctor said the cost would be $3,500 for small, $6,500 for medium, $14,000 for large. The man was sure he would want a medium or large, but the doctor urged him to talk it over with his wife before he made any decision. The man called his wife on the phone and explained their options. The doctor came back into the room and found the man looking dejected. Well, what have the two of you decided? Asked the doctor. The man answered, she'd rather have a new kitchen. Guy has been asking the prettiest girl in town for a date, and finally she agrees to go out with him. He takes her to a nice restaurant and buys her the gourmet dinner with expensive wine. On the way home, he pulls over to the side of the road in a secluded spot. They start talking and he's getting pretty excited. He starts to reach under her skirt and she stops him, saying she's a virgin and wants to stay that way. Well, okay, he says. How about a Yuck, she screams. I'm not putting that thing in my mouth. He says, well then how about a hand? I've never done that, she says. What do I have to do? Well, he answers, remember when you were a kid and you used to shake up a Coke bottle and spray your brother with it? She nods. Well, it's just like that. So he pulls it out and she grabs hold of it and starts shaking it. A few seconds later, his head flops back on the hardest. His eyes close. Snot starts to run out of his nose. Wax blows out of his ear and he screams out in pain. What's wrong? She cries out. Take your thumb off the end. And meets a gorgeous woman in a bar. They talk, they connect, and they end up leaving together. They go back to her place. And as she shows him around her apartment, he notices that the bedroom is completely packed with teddy bears. Hundreds of small bears are on the low shelf, medium-sized one on the shelf a little higher, and huge bears are on the top shelf. The man is kinda surprised that this woman would have a collection of teddy bears, especially one that's so extensive. But he decides not to mention this to her. After a night of passion, as they are lying together in the afterglow, the man rolls over and asks, smiling, well, how was it? The woman says, you can have any prize from the bottom shelf. and was approached by a coworker at lunch who invited him out for a few beers after work. The man said that his wife would never go for it, that she didn't allow him to go drinking with the guys after work. The coworker suggested a way to overcome that problem. When you get home tonight, sneak into the house, slide down under the sheets, gently pull down your wife's panties and give her oral. Women love it, and believe me, she'll never mention that you were out late with the boys. So the man agreed to try it and went out and enjoyed himself. Late that night, he sneaked into the house, slid down under the sheets, gently slid down his wife's panties and gave her oral. She moaned and groaned with pleasure, but after a little while he realized he had to take a leak, so he told her he'd be right back. He got out of bed and walked down the hall to the bathroom. When he opened the door and went in, he was very surprised to see his wife sitting on the toilet. "How did you get in here?" he asked. "Shh," she replied. "You'll wake my mother." Morning, the members of a farm family were coming to the kitchen for breakfast. Just as Junior seated himself, his mother told him he was not going to get anything to eat until he went to the barn and fed the animals. Irritated at this, he stomped out of the door and headed for the barn. As he fed the chickens, he kicked each one in the head. As the cow bent down to start in on the fresh hay he had just put in the stall, he kicked it in the head. He poured food for the pigs, and as they started eating, he kicked them in the head. He went back to the kitchen and sat down again. His mother was furious. "I saw what you did, and as you kicked your chickens, you'll get no eggs for breakfast, and since you kicked the cow, you'll get no milk, and no bacon or sausage because you kicked the pigs." Just then, the father came down the stairs and nearly tripped on the family cat. On impulse, he kicked the cat off the stairs. The boy looked at his mother and asked, "Are you going to tell him, or should I?" Couple are on their way to Vegas to get married. Before getting there, the girl says to the guy that she has a confession to make. The reason that they have not been too intimate is because she's very flat-chested. If he wishes to cancel the wedding, it's okay with her. The guy thinks about it for a while and says he does not mind, that she's flat and is not the most important thing in a marriage. Several miles down the road, the guy turns to the girl and says that he also wants to make a confession. He says that below his waist, he's just like a baby. If the girl wants to cancel the marriage, it's okay with him. The girl thinks about it for a while and says that she does not mind, and that she also believes there are other things far more important than in the marriage. They are happy that they are honest with each other and go on to Vegas and get married. On their wedding night, the girl takes off her clothes. She is as flat as a washboard. Finally, the guy takes off his clothes. One glance at the guy's body and the girl faints and falls to the floor. After she regains consciousness, the guy says, "I told you before we get married. Why did you still faint?" The girl says, "You told me it was just like a baby." The guy replies, "Yes, 8 pounds and 21 inches.